Good morning. My name is Caroline Stokes. I'm the CEO of Forward, and I'm bringing together the best brains in the world to help us transition and get through this current era that we're in. I am absolutely delighted. I can't tell you how delighted. I've interviewed Ron Carucci 3 times now on my podcasts over the years, and I dragged him back in again. So it's an absolute pleasure to have Ron. He is the managing partner and co-founder of Navalent. Ron has written 8 business books. And what I like to say about Ron is that he has frequent flyer writing miles as a major contributor to Harvard Business Review and Forbes. And he's consulted with more than 200 CEOs and C-suite executives. And I have to say, I look forward to the articles that he creates because they always speak to both my brain and my heart. And they just help me see myself and the way the world is going. So it is a great pleasure to introduce Ron Carucci.
Carolyn Stokes, my favorite conversationalist in the world. There's nobody I'd rather spend more time talking to than you. Big hug.
Big hug, distant social hug. So we're in a crazy new world. When we saw each other last year at Thinkers 50, we did not anticipate this when we were sitting around a table. We did not anticipate 2020 being 2020. So I'm really curious. What is it? Since that conversation that we had, or conversations, what is it you're really stoked about in our new world, this new era?
Well, there's a couple of things. I think the current political polarization notwithstanding, I was so moved to see how much of good humanity showed up in the COVID-19 crisis during racial unrest, which means we know it's there. Mm-hmm. We know whatever else covers it up, whatever else we would choose to hide it or not lead with it, we know it's present, right? So for me, I'm given great hope by the fact that there are lots of people in the world who care, who will sacrifice, who will be incredibly inventive with their talents to help other people who don't have the means to do so. Mm-hmm. And so watching those stories unfold, watching organizations step up and do more than just say things about the hard things, but do them. That's been really inspiring.
And that is truly inspiring. And I'm glad that you caught that because it's very easy for people it's so easy for people to dwell on the negatives and to
there's not much of it.
I know. So if I can ask you, because I want to riff with you for a second, how do you find it? I mean, I know that you're a naturally, innately curious human being, but how do you go out and find that positivity?
Well, you have to. I mean, if your guests haven't watched The Social Dilemma, they need to, because we're all being fed, the contemptuous, divisive content by intent. Right? People, there are algorithms that intentionally want to polarize our echo chambers. So unless you take a sledgehammer and bust your echo chamber, you won't find them. I happen to be in the middle of doing a massive amount of research for my next book right now, and it's on exemplars. It's on the people you want to emulate. And so I've spent the last year immersed in these glorious conversations with leaders and thought leaders and executives and good human beings who are doing the most extraordinary things in the world. And so I'm bathing in the stories of inspiration. I'm just basking in the fact that there are people whose stories I'll be privileged to tell. And so when I lose perspective, when I find myself going down that dark rabbit hole or, lingering too long on a scroll I should just go right past, I have to stop and pause and remind myself this is not the whole story. There's so much more of a story than this. And hope is a choice. You have to. Hope is not a natural state for us, right? We're much more predisposed to despair and to pessimism and even fatalism. And so, if you want to choose that the story can be better, you have to actually pursue it. And I have to do that every day, or I'm going to sit here and I'm going to go plow through bags of Doritos and whatever else I can shove in my face to stress eat. Or I'll be clicking add to cart on Amazon every 20 minutes. So, we all we're all looking for ways to self-soothe, and we all have our own unhealthy go-tos for that. And then we feel worse about ourselves, it just becomes a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And so if you're not taking care of yourself and taking care of your hope, in a time like this, you just put yourself at risk.
Take care of your hope. I've not heard that saying before, and I think that's a fantastic statement. We're all so focused on self-care, and sometimes I think we don't know how to care for ourselves in stressful times, and we don't know what that means, or we don't find that it's doing enough when it might do something for someone else. But if it's taking care of your hope, then yes, you've got to really focus on your media diet.
Yeah. Well, and I think the reality is the world will easily help us confuse self-indulgence with self-care.
Yes.
And they're not the same thing. They each provide a source of comfort of a kind, but they're not really the same thing. Self-care, it takes work. Getting to the dentist and getting your teeth cleaned. It means, it's not just about pampering yourself, although that's a great thing to do as well. It means exercising and forcing yourself away from your screen. And spending time with your loved ones, even though you're tired. It means spending time and thinking about what you value and why, and what you're grateful for and why. It takes time. Self-care is not, just I've earned that ice cream cone, or I deserve a massage. Anytime you use the word deserve, it's not self-care. It's entitlement, and it's just self-indulgence. You may deserve it, and you go have that indulgence. But don't tell yourself that it's nourishing your soul in a replenishing way, because it's not.
Thank you. I really like that as well. That's really wonderful. And considering you focus so much with corporations and helping organizations to evolve, I'm really curious how you've just talked about the individual and how individuals are going to be able to transition by looking at how they manage their ability to find hope. How would you guide organizations through this transition as well? Because I think I was talking to Whitney Johnson the other day, and we're talking about the S-curve. She's going to kill me. Talking about the S-curve, and we're all at different stages of the S-curve. So let's just say that companies have just absolutely, they've hit rock bottom. They know that the second wave is coming. We've got the political fallout that is not looking great in America right now. Second wave is happening internationally. Let's say things are very challenging. People want things to stop. There's doom when you hear that Disney laid off so many people yesterday, which that's a happy place. So for that to happen, that's going to be kicking people where it hurts. So how do you find organizations can best transform at this time, or best adapt at this time?
Well, I think one of the challenges I think many organizations don't want to confess is that many of the cracks, the fragility, the uncertainty of organizations didn't get caused by COVID-19. They just got revealed by COVID-19. And I think people have to be honest about that, right? So, we all know the cliche, you don't plant the tree the day you need the shade. So the day you need the hearts and minds of your people to be creative and agile, to be flexible, to stay with you, even if you can't commit to them, is not the day a pandemic hits. So if you haven't built that equity up with your employees, for goodness sake, use the pandemic to start that.
Yes.
And so by letting them know how committed you are to them. The worst thing leaders will do in a crisis is they'll isolate. They go away into some dark room and they have to solve the problems themselves. I have shoved more CEOs in front of cameras and said, open the books, open them wide, let people see all the red. If you think your job is to go away by yourself and somehow come up with some magic fix and come out and announce bad news, and you think that's good leadership, you're mistakenly wrong. People can handle the bad news. What they can't handle is thinking that you're the one fixing it. So get them around a table. Give them calculators. Give them pencils. They will be harder on themselves than you will be, but they will find ways to share the sacrifice. They'll find ways to help people keep jobs when they can. They'll volunteer to get furloughed if they can be. But the worst thing you can do right now is not build coalition out of whoever you've got, whether you're a small restaurant business or a large company. You need to build coalition with the people you have. Engage them in if this is the fight of your life, get everybody into the fight. The power of that many brains is far better than yours. People have answers you will never conceive of, nor could you. And so get them around the table thinking, get them around the table talking, and especially be very mindful of people's mental health. If you thought that mental health was a lot of hooey, then you're in trouble. The mental health crisis of this, especially if you're returning to work and bringing people back to the office, the mental health crisis is even more acute. People are anxious, they're stressed, they're going to be easily triggered. And you have to expect that two things now. One, people's mental health is now relevant to you more than it was. It's not just a go talk to HR.
Yes.
And two, their home lives are relevant to you because you're on a screen watching them. And so if you don't think people's laundry and childcare issues and dining room tables are now a part of your world, they are. And they have to be. So if you can't fix it, feature it. I've helped leaders in several different forms initiate a wonderful ritual called WFH mishaps. We've all done the stupidest, goofiest things working from home. We stood up in our boxers in front of the camera. We had the cat walk over us. We left the camera on, went to the bathroom. We've all done crazy things. Talk about them. Laugh at them. We trying to do homeschool for our kids, left the frying pan on, burned dinner. The stories of our humanity right now can be the greatest source of coalescence and camaraderie right now. Because we're all in it together. And so let those stories be told, celebrate them, and show each other grace when you do it to each other. When you're the mishap, show each other grace.
Yeah. Oh, well, exactly. And it's forgiving yourself really, really quickly, that it's just like, well, we're in different times. We couldn't separate our work and our professional lives and, put on the suit, go to work, be that person, and then come back and go, make baked beans on toast for the kids because you're too busy trying to get them to soccer and all of these different things. It's a different time now. It's a different time. So thank you. I really love that. So John Lewis died. And when he died, it inspired me to create this podcast series because I wanted to create some good trouble. His mantra was very, very, it really stuck with me deep in my heart. And if I could get a tattoo, I would, but I won't. But what I'm most interested in is what kind of good trouble are you creating, Ron?
Oh my gosh, I'm sure trying. What's interesting and then we just, recently lost Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and when I marry, of all the brilliant things she said, my favorite really is, for such a time as this, fight for what you believe in, but do it in a way that makes people want to join you.
Yes.
And when I put that side by side, I create good trouble. There's sort of an interesting two sides of the same coin there, but how you create good trouble, right? Adopting the posture of a giant middle finger is not good trouble. But if I can provoke, if I can turn an issue on its head, if I can help people think differently about their own behavior, and poke a finger at some assumption especially one where you've made yourself innocent, that's my good trouble. So this book I'm writing is on honesty, and I'm getting to unearth and upend a lot of misunderstandings about what honesty is and what it's not. And all of our self-soothing assumptions of course I'm an honest person. Mm-hmm. Well, I can probably prove that you intend to be, but I can probably prove that many times you're not, even when you think you are. Because honesty is a muscle. It's a capability. And after 15 years of research and 3,200 interviews, what we learned was that there are conditions under which even the most noble person will lie, cheat, and serve their own interests first. Honesty is not just about telling the truth. Honesty in the research shows that truth, justice, and purpose are all equally correlated. That to have one, you have to have all three. Mm-hmm. So you can't tell the truth without serving a purpose. You can't serve a purpose without showing equity and justice to somebody else. We have our organizations right now. All the D&I people are trying to campaign their way to equality. You have all of the marketers trying to purpose wash to make it look like we're being purposeful. And you have all the psychological safety experts saying, speak up. Mm-hmm. Those are well-intended efforts, but they are not going to create the conditions under which people will tell the truth, be fair to other people, and serve the greater good. Mm. And so this season of my life is about holding up mirrors to people to say, if you intend to be purpose-driven, if you intend to be honest and truthful, and to serve in a just and equitable way all the playing field in your organizations, this is what it looks like. Not mincing words. It's not easy. The great news is that there are extraordinary exemplars out there doing it who we should all want to emulate and follow. And so yes, I'm shoving those stories into a spotlight and saying, stop reading about Wells Fargo, stop reading about Volkswagen, stop. Because what we secretly like to do with those stories is tell ourselves, well, at least I'm not like that.
Yes.
So they become this sort of this tiered sense of hubris, right? Well, I'm not that headline, so but by comparison, we're better. Well, if I asked your employees, if I held up your mission statement and your value statement and said to your employees, so when thinking about your senior leaders, do these things come to mind?
And 99% of the time, they will shake their heads.
They're gonna roll their eyes. You might get on a good day. You might get a I mean, so you're okay. Maybe some of them. You're not going to get a oh yeah. Right?
Rarely, so rarely.
So and if your words that you say about yourself as an organization and your actions don't match, what that means is that you've now institutionalized duplicity. You've now said, in our company, we say one thing and do another. Yes. So when your people decide to follow your example and say one thing, like, sure, I'll have that done by Friday, or, I'm happy to do that project, or, no, I didn't make that mistake, and the actions don't support those words, don't be surprised. But what my research shows is that when that's the case, you are 3 times more likely to have people lie, cheat, and serve their interests. But when your words and actions match, when you are who you say you are, and when you actively work to be who you say you are, you're 3 times more likely to have people tell you the truth, treat each other well, and serve the greater good. So it's in your control. And that's just one example. So for me, good trouble means forcing people to look at things that they take for granted, that they sort of glaze right by, and to say, wait a minute, that value says integrity, or you say you value diversity, or your mission says high quality, or your purpose statement says, serve customers with delight. Let's really step back from the cosmetic reasons you wrote those words in the first place and talk about, turns out people think you're supposed to mean them. And what does that take?
Everything that you say, as usual, Ron, is just so eloquently and very well said and very well put. And I really am so happy that you used such a almost like a virginal word like honesty to focus on this, because it's something that, as you say, we I don't know how many, and you've probably got this in the book, how many white lies we tell every single day.
Research says on average at least 2.
Only 2?
Probably more. I didn't want to hurt their feelings. I was trying to protect somebody. We have masterful justifications for why we do it. And you have a range of ethicists who will tell you whether it's okay or not. But we're all looking to be our best versions of ourselves, our most authentic selves. You cannot be true to yourself if you don't know the truth about yourself.
Lovely. Yeah.
And you have to look in before you can say I'm truly an honest person.
Yeah. What inspired you to go down that path?
It was sort of the follow-up research after Rising to Power, from 2014, to say, well, so we isolated our data for individual leadership. What about the system? I was tired of hearing that it's the culture or a bunch of bad people. 5,000 people didn't wake up at Wells Fargo all on the same day and go, hey, here's an idea. So under what conditions are we our best selves, and under what conditions are we not? I've been smitten with the concept of purpose because everybody's trying to write about it, and what does it really mean, and how do we know when we're embodying it? And we decided not to be academics and well-behaved with our research and give the data hypothesis, right? Because we all know when a researcher gives an X and Y hypothesis to its data, miraculously the data gets proved that their hypothesis was right. So we thought, well, since we're using AI, we're using IBM Watson, so we feed it this terabytes of data,
Amazing,
and have it come back and tell us. So unlike with Rising to Power, where we said we're searching for these things, what can you tell us? We said, let's let the intelligence tell us what we should be looking for. What questions should we be asking? And it came back with these very interesting drill sites around honesty and the conditions under which people will tell the truth, create a shared truth, behave with justice. And so I'm like, oh, let's dig there. That's cool. And what was interesting to find where the intersection of purpose and truth came was, at its core, purpose means I want to know that I matter. I want to know that I have significance. I want to understand that my fingerprint on the world is secured. That's core to human beings, right? Mm. But what was interesting is when people didn't feel that way, when they questioned their own value, they became committed to the second most important need, which is the counterfeit, which is if I don't know that I matter, I'm going to work on making sure I look like I matter. And that's a whole different set of dedications because that's all about the illusion of significance.
Yeah.
And we all do it. We all embellish our stats and self-promote when we don't feel good about that. We do things to make sure other people believe that we're significant, while hiding the fact that we feel we don't. And so now I've created this sense of, imposter syndrome for me, and now I'm not being honest about who I am. And so it becomes this perpetuating cycle of committing to the appearance of mattering rather than actually mattering.
Interesting. It's almost like when you're trying to create the appearance, you're, as I say, brushing my hair. It's almost as if you've got self-perpetuating unhappiness. You're generating that unhappiness rather than actually making yourself and your organization and your people and your community and your family, a mattering in a more meaningful way. So, and
you know what, Carolyn, what's replacing that happiness is shame. Because I know I'm doing it. I'm not fooling me. When your organization puts up on its wall, we firmly condemn racism, but your Black employees are feeling excluded, unheard, and burdened. They know it. Probably many of the white people know it about them. So all you're creating is this sense of collusion, right? Our job is to make it look like that's true. It just creates a sense of shame. And when there's shame, people hide. And when people hide, they don't bring their best selves to work. And so you put into place this negative flywheel of deceit. And we're not going to feel the best about ourselves when we know we're intentionally colluding in deceit.
And you don't realize it when you're caught in that for a very long time. You don't know it. You know that there's something off, and I'm feeling the memory. I've got the muscle memory of a kind of dread in my stomach about the times that I had felt that previously, and you can see that you just don't fit in for whatever reason, and it's a really big struggle. And as a headhunter doing executive search, and then obviously coaching with people with their careers and leaders, they all, as we're having this frank conversation, have this. There's this invisible wall that you're talking about that they can't articulate. They are unable to decode it and recode it in a way that actually makes sense because there's ego in the way. It's
sure.
I can't wait to read your book. When's it come out?
And so next spring it'll be out.
Okay, good.
And I love that point. And the problem is, while they're trying to do that, I love the word decoding. The problem is they're looking around and everybody else seems to be okay with it. And so that sense of I don't know that I fit here, I can either continue to be honest about that or work to fit. Which is why one of the things I wanted to understand was under what conditions will otherwise really smart, ethical, caring people go to the dark side? And our organizations create the conditions under which that happens. Here's another example, accountability. You have never had somebody, I'm sure any of your clients say to you, wow, I'm so excited about my performance review. Right? Or it's our quarterly check-in, can't wait. The conversations that should be the most dignifying and honoring of our work are the ones we most dread and hate. When our accountability system is seen as unfair, meaning not the way you pay me, but the way you measure my contribution, I don't think is accurate or fair. Now you are 4 times more likely to have people lie, cheat, and serve their interests.
Yeah.
Because we have, in a knowledge economy, we have dangerously separated the contribution from the contributor. In the interest of fairness, we've scaled sameness. So we treat everybody the same. So when we were all making the same widgets, that was fine. But when my contribution is my analysis, my creativity, my ideas, the contribution is as unique as I am. And so if you don't fuse together my contribution as a reflection of me as the contributor, that's not fair. That's sameness. And so when I feel unseen, when I feel disregarded, when I feel like the person who should know my work the best is asking me to fill out the form for you so you can sign it and send it off to HR, I feel insulted. I feel offended. I feel unseen. And now it's not safe to be myself. So now I have to embellish my accomplishments just to get your attention. And I'm sure as heck not going to be honest about my mistakes and shortfalls. I'm going to hide those, or worse, I'm going to throw somebody else under the bus. So here again, these are mechanisms in organizations that exist that we can control, that either encourage honesty or discourage it.
I like that, because the total opposite, as you were describing the environment, is that people will say that sounds like such a toxic environment, but it's because of the way we try to survive in an organization because of the obstacles that appear. And people want those people that are able to influence well and things like that. But if you're influencing well in an honest environment, if we can call it that right now, rather than influencing in a toxic environment that already kind of has unwittingly approved that disapproving behavior, is like, well, this is how things happen. I really can't wait to read your book, and yes, I just can't wait, because, as you know, I love your work. So thank you. Question for you, which is, why is this an emotionally intelligent thing to do?
Well, so let's flip the script. What we know about honest companies and honest people is that they outperform their competitors by enormous factors, right? So the most ethical companies outperform the S&P 500 by a factor of 4 to 16, depending. Purpose-driven companies attract more loyal followers and loyal consumers by a factor of 80%. So even if you want to use self-interest as a reason, right? Why would you not want to create the conditions under which people get to discover the greatest versions of who they are? And in so doing, help you discover the greatest version of who you are as an organization. Why would you not want to do that? Why would you not want to unleash the greatest talents that are probably buried right in front of your face onto the world, onto your customers, onto each other? I just don't know what Why
wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? And if you're honest, the reason you wouldn't want to is because you're threatened by it. Or you're being exposed for your own shortfalls. Well, newsflash, people already know your shortfalls. They're not a secret. And so you might as well get out there and get naked in front of everybody else anyway, because they're all talking about it. So why would you, for goodness sake, want to get up in the morning and not find every possible way to make that day great for somebody else? To create the conditions under which people will tell you the brutal, honest truth that you need to hear, serve each other in ways that are more equitable than your company could ever, put in policy, and serve a purpose that's worth getting up in the morning for, and make you go home at night feeling really proud.
Thank you.
I think we all say we want to do those things, but I think we want to do it in campaigns and posters and slogans, sloganeering.
Rather than
it takes a little bit more than that, but it's not impossible. I think that was the thing that most excited me in the research, was talking to leader after leader after leader, company after company after company, who actually has figured out how to make this a way of life, how to make truth, justice, and purpose core to who they are. And when you watch not just the market results of their performance, those are inspiring enough. But when you watch the people in those organizations truly not being able to wait to get to work, not wanting to go home at night, socializing with each other on weekends, learning something new every day, surprising themselves and delighting each other with their new discoveries and new accomplishments and new stretches of their talents. Why would you not want to create that workplace, given that we know that Gen Z and millennials, are becoming far less tolerant of anything less?
And they are, I sound like an advert now, but they are the future, and they're taking up such a massive percentage of the workforce right now. I think you're looking at about 30% right now, just of Gen Z. Sorry, yeah, Gen Z. And when you take into and I know I've got my data wrong there, but when you take into consideration, and that's what they're looking for, because they're not very happy right now with the way previous generations have treated the planet, how they've been marketed to. They're looking for an unprecedented amount of honesty that you're talking about. And it's the leaders that are really able to step up in that particular area and go through that self-examination and understand themselves, by hiring a coach, hiring a transformational organization like yourself, or my organization with my boot camp. All of these, there are so many different ways to move forward. Right now in this era, this is the time to do it. Because as you say, COVID brought everything up to the surface. And if you're not doing it now, it's not going to look.
You'll get left behind. You may think that the dangerous thing is to include is that you're impervious, which I think many leaders are doing. They put their head in the sand and think this too shall pass. Yeah. Well, this may pass, but so will you. Mm. You have options now. Even if you feel backed into a corner because you're cash strapped, or whatever the reason is, you may have to invent your way out of that corner. But the first step is to acknowledge that you put yourself in the corner. COVID didn't do that. And what would you like to be the outcome, right? If you've only set the bar as low as surviving, then shame on you. Why would you not want to set the bar on, I'm going to thrive through this. Screw it. I'm going to come out better on the other side of this. That's a choice too. Yep.
Give it your best shot. Very good. So what would you say, because you've provided so much rich information, there's already so much that people are going to be able to take away and hopefully regenerate their organizations and themselves. But let's just say there's one thing you would like individuals and organizations to take away. What would that be?
If I borrow from ancient wisdom that says you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. Well, the truth will only set you free if you tell it. So I would ask you, what lie are you telling yourself about you, about your organization, about your life? What lie have you colluded with and believed that maybe you want to step back and say, maybe that's not true. Maybe there's an alternative truth here. And if you were honest about it, if you told the truth to yourself about a part of your story that you've ignored, a part of your own history that you've long filed away as insignificant, but you know there's something there, about a relationship you should or shouldn't be in. If you were honest about the justifications you've used to convince yourself otherwise, what could that change? What change could that set in motion for your life? Just ask yourself.
Yep. Ask yourself, what lie are you telling yourself? And as soon as you said that, I was thinking to myself, I don't think I've ever asked myself that question. What lie am I telling myself? It's very easy to add different layers of what I want to do, but it's like, well, hold on a second. What lie am I telling myself? And I think that's a great question for me to ruminate on, and I might let you know.
We all have them. We all have stories and narratives in our head that we use to make sense of the world. Exactly. I'm inadequate. She hates me. I'm not that good. I'm better than her, and it's not fair that I have this thing. And they go on and on and on. But the problem is those become templates that we use to navigate the world, and we make really bad decisions when those templates become our truth, and we don't test them.
Yes. Find out what the lies are that you have, identify them, and then test them. Play around with them. Have some fun. Why not?
Yeah.
Wow, fun. That's a fun experiment. I'm going to do that. Ron, I just want to have conversations with you every single day. You're the best.
You are my favorite conversationalist. I just feel like this is like the brain candy store with you.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're very, very busy, and I'm so glad that we got this time together.
This was a joy. As always, big hug. Love you. Thank you for all your good work.
Thank you, Ron. Take care.